honor and respects. This is Sancista Brujo Luis. Today I'm doing a 4-part video, and I'm trying not to make my videos long. I know that a lot of people don't like the long videos, but I want to make a 4-part video, and I have some notes here because I want to keep on track. The video, or this video that you will see here, will be a book review. The first part will be a book review. The second part will be on prayer within Espiritismo, the importance of prayer. Poverty, I also want to talk about poverty for a second within Espiritismo and the view of poverty or material earthly gains and wealth and all that, because there's a lot of false information placed out there. And the last thing that I want to talk to today is about the difference between Spiritism, Espiritismo, and Spiritualism, Espiritualismo. A lot of people don't understand the differences between Espiritismo, Spiritism, and Spiritualism, which is Espiritualismo in Spanish. So again, this video will be on a book review, on our views, not so much on poverty, I don't know if I'm using the right word, but poverty and earthly gains and all that. Prayers within Espiritismo, and again, the difference between Espiritismo and Spiritualism. So hopefully you're on board, and let's start the video. So the first part of this video is about a book review that I feel I would like to give, and I think I'm going to title my video after this book, because this book is really good. And the book is on Espiritismo within more of the Lucumi Santeria tradition, but it's good for anyone who practices Espiritismo. As a Hispanic, as of a Puerto Rican person, I know that there are many great books on Espiritismo in Spanish, in Portuguese, in French, and I think in Italian, but let's focus on the Spanish and the Portuguese. I know that there are a plethora of books on the philosophies, the science, and the spirituality on Espiritismo in the Caribbean and in Brazil and in Latin America, and there's rarely any books on Espiritismo or Spiritism in English. If you go to a sesión, which is a seance, a velada, a misa espiritual, often you will come across this little booklet, or this book. This is a book of prayers that we use in Espiritismo, and you will often see this book in la mesa. There's an English version of this book. It is the worst. I mean, it has the same picture, colecciones de oraciones escogidas by Allen Kardec, or some of the prayers that he used. Okay, the English version is the worst. It is really chopped up. I don't know who translated it, but a lot of people complain about that. So I'm going to give those people who practice Espiritismo and want to learn how to pray the way Espiritistas do, what's the best alternative to this book. And I'm trying not to get the glare, but it's called Collection of Selected Prayers by what's her name? Candita Gual. Let's see if you can see the name right there. So yes, it's Candita C. Gual. This is by far, to me, the best English translated prayer book in Espiritismo in English, and I recommend this to anyone who is a non-Spanish or Portuguese speaking person, that if they go to a Spanish sesión or velada and they want to follow along with the prayers, don't get the English version of this book. Get the get this version. This is a beautiful book. Of course, it's not translated word for word, because the Spanish language is very different from the English language, but it is very close. And so a lot of people, when we go to misas and sesiones and veladas, we do a time when we pray to protect the house, to protect all who are part of la sesión, la velada, la misa espiritual. So we pray a lot. and you will often see el presidente de mesa or president of the white table, or a media unidad de mano derecha, a secondary medium. Not so much the secondary medium, because the secondary medium is the one who usually receives the messages of the spirits, is the channeler, the conduit. But usually they use this prayer book, well, actually this prayer book, in Spanish, but a lot of people don't understand the prayers. And it's so important that when we're doing a mesa sesión, that everyone is in unión de pensamiento, in union of thought. And instead of, while the person is praying, someone's thinking about something else, I always recommend have this book so that you can follow along with the prayers. In Espiritismo, there are 100 prayers. I'm going to go that in the section about prayers, so we'll cover that in a little bit, but there's 100 prayers, and I want to cover that in a second. So anyways, Candita C. Gual also wrote another book, which I haven't seen nobody review, and I think is the most beautiful book. In Spanish languages, in Portuguese, and in French, there are, like I said, a plethora of intellectual books on Espiritismo. Candita C. Gual wrote this book, and I'm going to title my video after this, And the Shadows Wore Colors. Beautiful book. I'm going to take a picture of what she looks like. Okay, so you can see what it is. This is more for the practitioners of I want to say Ocha, maybe Ifa, Lukumi, but not so necessarily generally so. Anyone who practices Espiritismo can use this book. There's, I think, 1 or 2 chapters on Espiritismo with Ocha and Lukumi and Santeria, but the book generally will work with anybody who practices any religion, any spirituality. Beautiful book. I want to show you the context. Very short book. It's like only 60 pages, and I read this in like one day, and I haven't seen nobody review this book, so I want to show you the context, what a beautiful book this is, and I highly recommend this book. In Spanish, we have, like I said, a whole bunch of books on the philosophy, the science, the spirituality of Spiritism, and this is something that's lacking in the English communities. I'm not going to say this is the greatest book, but this is a really beautiful book for starters, and so I highly recommend it. And I'm going to show you the table of context and explain to you a little bit. I'm not going to go too much into the book because you should pick it up and buy it, but what she talks about and some of the philosophies and science of what is Espiritismo. So let me show you the context and some of the chapters. So here is the book that I'm going to be reviewing today, and it is titled, And the Shadows Wore Colors, Reflections of a Spiritualist by Candita C. Gual. She is also the author of Collection of Selected Prayers, originally by Allen Kardec, Revised English Translation 2014. Again, there's her name, Candita C. Gual. She translated this from the horrible English version of La Colección de Oraciones Escogidas. If you go to a Puerto Rican house, you go to a Cuban house who are espiritistas, venezolano, colombiano, Mexicano, anyone who is Latino, who is an espiritista, who works La Mesa Blanca, the white table, this book is there, okay? This is my grandmother's. This is the one that we use in las sesiones o veladas o misas. This is my grandmother's book. This is from the 50s, mind you. And it has, this is the only thing that I got from my grandma. This is her copy. And it was written by, well, inspired by the writings of Allen Kardec. I'm going to keep those notes very private. This is my grandmother's version. So it's very sacred to me, okay? So this book, this little book right here from the 50s, this was my grandmother's personal book, is this book that you can get in any botanica, and you will often see the English, the horribly English translation of this book. I'm trying not to shake. You want an English version of this book? Trust me. This is the best book, okay? I'm surprised people have not talked more about And the Shadows Wore Colors, Reflections of a Spiritualist by Candita C. There she is right there. There's, let's see if I can show her autobiography if you want to pause that. Trying not to shake as I'm recording. But anyways, let me show you the inside of the book and what the book has to offer. Mind you that in Espiritismo, in the Spanish language and in the Portuguese language, there is so many books on the philosophy on Spiritism, Espiritismo, that is lacking in the English language speaking communities. This book, I mean, most of what I've read in this book, I've already read in other Spanish books. So nothing here is new to me, but for people who want to understand the basis of Espiritismo and don't have anything, trust me, this is the one. It's going to be very hard for me to record with one hand. It's only like 80 pages. And I'm just going to, each part of the book starts with a quote from an ascended master. This is the table of contents. Then we have a message to the reader. This is not going to be easy. A foreword. And they're pretty much a prologue. I put some bookmarks there so that I can find the chapters easily. An introduction. Again, there is a quote. Each one has, and this is right. The first one is how it all began. This book is written by Candita C. but it is also by another medium who interviewed her, and this is her name right there, Cynthia Graham Ward. Okay, so she interviews Candita throughout the book. They met in a tambor when Candita was mounted by the Orisha Yemaya, and that goes into that. Right here, the second chapter is Can Spirits Be Explained? Very simple. It's only like a page long. Trust me, these are philosophies that if you find in Spanish language and you understand Spanish, these it goes really deep into it. The principles of spirits. There's another quote. I'm trying to do this with one hand. The supreme being, the cause of all causes, the creator, God, in our beliefs, in Espiritismo. Excuse me, Espiritismo is not a religion. Espiritismo is a spirituality, philosophy, and science. The karma of spirit. Yes, we believe in karma, and we believe in the law of cause and effect. So that is briefly explained here. Hopefully I didn't miss anything. Give me a second. The development of spirit. Again, each chapter starts, and they're only like a 1 page, 2 page each chapter. Again, there is a proverb. This is a Native American proverb. Okay, give me a second. I'm going to do this with one hand. Where our responsibilities lie. Chapter 7. See, it's only 1 page. Spiritual unity, unión espiritual. And I'm going to go deeper into that with the prayer section on the spiritual unity, o la unión, el cordón, o la unión. A call to spirit. And again, there's a nice little proverb. Chapter 10 is, Am I hearing voices in my head? Chapter 11, a discussion of the Yoruba influence. There's only 2 chapters on Yoruba. And you know, I might explain that a little bit, you know, but this book was written more for the Yoruba and Santeria practitioners. A lot of them have a hard time finding the connection between Espiritismo and the Yoruba or Ifa or Santeria traditions. So this book kind of discusses that. This one is A Need for Further Understanding. Beautiful proverb or quote. Chapter 13 is the manifestation of spiritual energies. Los fluidos, las energías espirituales. Los fluidos, los corrientes, as we say in Spanish. Chapter 14, the effect of astrology on spiritual progression. Okay. A lot of Espiritistas do believe in astrology and, the planets and all that. This is a little, a nice introduction on that. I don't think I've ever really read much on astrology in Espiritismo, but this was a really nice, especially for the Latino community, or, again, this is not easy. Give me a second. Especially for the, the communities who believe in astrology in the Western world, believing in the self. Again, there's a nice little proverb. That's chapter 15. Each chapter is like, I swear to God, this book is really small. We're almost at the end of it. This is the language. I'm trying to get the blur. The language of the spirit. I don't know why it's blurry all of a sudden. Sorry about that. And this is pretty much the ending, I think. And the last chapter is, why is it blurry? Embracing faith. Okay. And there's a quote by Martin Luther King. Again, this book is like 60 pages, very short. It is, there's nothing here new that I haven't read in any Espiritismo book in Spanish or anything written in Portuguese, because there are tomes on the philosophy, the science, the spirituality of what is Espiritismo. A lot of people get confused by it, but this is such a beautiful book for those who, of course, not excluding Allen Kardec, but for those who want a simple introduction to a spiritism, who practice traditions such as Santeria, Santerismo, Voodoo, Maria Leonza, Hoodoo, whatever it may be. Beautiful book. I definitely highly recommend this book. I'm surprised more people don't talk about this book. And it is such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful little booklet. Nothing here that I haven't read in Spanish again, but for those who want to understand the philosophies, touch the tip of the iceberg of what the philosophies of Espiritismo is, I definitely highly recommend this book. So I definitely highly recommend both Candita C. Gual's books, especially this one is more aimed for people who practice an African-based religion, how to place the Espiritismo philosophies within your tradition. Remember, Espiritismo is not a religion, it's a spirituality, it's a spiritual path. I want to also cover the topic somewhere on YouTube somewhere. Someone had quoted saying that Espiritistas or Espiritismo, we teach the philosophy of living a poor life. And I think that person got that from Allen Kardec's the Gospels according, and there's a glare there, the Gospels according to Espiritismo or Spiritism, or the Gospels according to Allen Kardec. I think this is such an important writing. This is the first book that I was given to study, and I still study this to this day. This is the foundation of everything that I practice, everything that I am is based on, this is the same book, is just translated differently from the original French, which was written by Allen Kardec. But there's a passage in here, a lot of the passages in here are taken from the Holy Book, the Bible, where it says that it is easier for a camel to enter into the eye of a needle than a rich man to enter into heaven. So I want to elaborate a little bit on that. Espiritismo does not teach that we should live an impoverished life. That is the most stupidest thing I've ever heard. In fact, most of the great minds of Espiritismo, the spiritualists that I have known, all the books that I have studied, whether it's on the philosophies, the science, were intellectual people. They were professors, they were teachers, they were doctors, and they lived a comfortable life. They were very highly educated men and women, both France and in Spain and in Puerto Rico, Cuba, Brazil, Venezuela. Most of the books on Espiritismo, the philosophies of Espiritismo, are written by intellectual people. Allen Kardec, if you study the life of Allen Kardec, was an intellectual man, okay? And he wrote down the codifications of Espiritismo. He never channeled the spirit, but he wrote down the codifications of Espiritismo with interviewing other mediums who brought down spirits. So Espiritismo does not teach poverty. We understand that, okay, I want you to give you a clue. We should all live a comfortable life by our labors, by what we work and what we place into our labors. But everything that I have today, all this jewelry and all this is just momentarily. It will be gone. I like it, I enjoy it, but it doesn't make me me. If I lose this tomorrow, then I lost it, okay? I'm not going to place myself in depression. My thought on elevating is my soul, my spirit. The material flesh is gonna rot, it's gonna die. My soul is forever. It was here before it got incarnated into this body, and it will go on. And everything that I collect, all my trappings in life, is momentarily, and it brings me pleasure, makes my life comfortable, but I don't base my existence on all my material trappings. And if you look at a lot of ancient philosophies from many traditions, whether it's Hinduism, whether it's Christianity, whether it's Muslims, Arabic traditions, whether it's in Japanese traditions, you will notice that lower level entities. Let's give you an example. Jinns. We all know what a jinn is. A jinn is a genie. It's an elemental spirit. There's that Aladdin, where he gives, I guess, Aladdin 3 wishes, and if Aladdin, he gets 3 wishes. I don't remember the story right now. You can find that version of that story in all ancient religions: Hinduism, Buddhism, Shinto, all major religions, Christianity. When Jesus, okay, I'm going to speak a little bit about Jesus in a second, but when Jesus was, after his baptism with John the Baptist, he went into the desert for 40 days, and the jinn, okay, or El Diablo, Satan or Lucifer, whatever that jinn was, tempted him with saying, I'll give you all these earthly riches if you follow me, if you bow down to me. Lower level entities can give you earthly possessions and earthly riches. Higher level spirits don't care about your earthly possessions. They don't care if you have a new Rolls Royce or a new car or a gold chain. They don't care about that. All they care is about the soul and helping you, guiding you through this life and through, future lives. And I hope I'm trying to make that understand. But one person said that Espiritismo is based on poverty. Espiritismo is a spiritual tradition. It is based on science, philosophies, and all the Espiritistas that I know, that I have read, because I've read many tomes on Espiritismo, were intellectual speakers, scientists, professors, so on and so on. And so I wrote a list of some of the great Espiritistas from around the world. Of course, we have Allen Kardec. We all know Allen Kardec. He was from France. In Brazil, we have Chico Xavier, great mind. Also in Brazil, we have Divaldo Franco. Okay, in Puerto Rico, we have some of these have passed on. Okay, but they have left beautiful works on the philosophies of Espiritismo. But we have Romero Rosa, Luisa Capetillo. If you're a Puerto Rican woman, any Puerto Rican woman should know who Luisa Capetillo is. If you don't, go Google who Luisa Capetillo is, okay? Very intellectual woman. There was José de Diego, Vicente Dieguel Polanco. There was Rosendo Soltero Cintaron, okay? Let's see who else did I write here, because I know I was going to forget names. In Cuba, we have Ciro Labrada. These are just a few names. We have Rey Formoso. Spain, España. This is Amalia Domingo Soler, was a beautiful poet. She wrote a lot of books on Spiritism, the philosophies of the Spiritism. There's Miguel Vives y Vives. All of these people the last two I just mentioned are from Spain. All of these people were intellectuals, you know, and they wrote beautiful books on the philosophy, the science of Spiritism, and they all lived a very comfortable life. So we don't believe in living an impoverished life. And someone mentioned that Spiritistas, we teach to live poverty. No, we don't teach to live in poverty. We teach that it's okay to work hard, and at the end of the day to buy those little nice things that you enjoy in life, that make life comfortable. But don't base your entire existence on this, because this is momentarily. The soul, the spirit, but then the soul is eternal, and that's what you want to enlighten, you want to elevate. So all these Espiritistas that I have mentioned right here, like I said, were intellectual, okay? And again, from Brazil to Puerto Rico to Cuba to España to Venezuela, they were intellectuals, they were professors in the greatest universities, they were doctors of medicine. Dr. Jose Gregorio, was an Espiritista as well. He worked a lot healing, but he did it out of charity. He didn't charge the poor. He healed with obra of charity, of works of charity. So he never charged for healing the poor. And that was his spiritual mission. But he lived a comfortable life as he was here, and he lived a life shortly. He passed away by getting hit by a car. So Espiritismo, we do not teach poverty. So I don't know where this person or this individual got that. Remember that lower level entities you can read on any mythology, any religion. Lower level entities will give you earthly pleasures and earthly riches so they can distract you from the elevation of your soul. And it doesn't mean that we all want to live a comfortable life. Do you understand what I'm saying? But it doesn't mean that that's what we should base our existence on, because this right here, it's a blink of the eye of what is the existence of one soul. So now I want to take a moment to talk about prayers. And in Spanish, we have there's many forms of prayers, of course, but there are two main forms of prayers in the Spanish Latin language. There's orando and there's rezando. Rezando is to recite. Now, often they can be used interchangeably, don't get me wrong, but rezando is to recite a prayer from a book, while orando is to speak from the heart or from memory, a prayer. I had this individual who came to, and I don't want to make this video about this individual, but I had this individual come to one of my misas espirituales once, and I thought he was a friend of mine. And this guy's a charlatan. He lived in Salem, Massachusetts, went to New York. I think he's somewhere down in New Orleans somewhere, asking donations for shackles for his spirits. Everywhere he's gone, I've gotten so many messages, and I don't want to make it about this charlatan. He's a charlatan, and I'm not even going to talk about this. But he had commented once that he had come to one of my misas in my house, where we had, not my house, my templo, where I was in the templo at that time, where we were doing una sesión espiritual. This person practices, I think, Kimbanda and some form of voodoo, and he's not Haitian, but he practices some form of voodoo, and so he understands the philosophy that when they pray in Haitian voodoo, they do the litany to the saints, the rosary, and I think in voodoo they do the Priya Jinen. We don't have that, the Priya Jinen, which is the African prayer. In Espiritismo, we don't have that. One thing that he doesn't understand, and I want to talk about that, is that all Espiritistas who pray, who orar, I know by heart El Rosario. I know the 5 mysteries, what day to use the 5 mysteries, when to use El Rosario, the rosary. I use it to pray to a santo. I use the Rosario when someone has passed away and we want to give a novena for 9 days. This is something that we were taught from childhood in the Latino communities. El Rosario, we know El Padre Nuestro, Dios te salve María, El Credo from heart. We know the litany, la litania de los santos, which starts with the male santos and the female santos, which is similar to what they do in Haitian voodoo, and I know that by heart. What he confused was that in Espiritismo, like I said, we have sesiones, we have veladas, we have misas, and each thing has a different job, a different purpose. In the books of Espiritismo, the prayers of Espiritismo, there are, I think, 100 or more so prayers. Each prayer has, I'm going to show you this version right here. Each prayer, which, mind you, were taken from the Gospels according to Spiritism, and I'm trying not to get the glare. The Gospels according to Spiritism, except for these, have a lot of beautiful poetries like the Contemplation of the Moon and El Naufrago, the Shipwreck. I'm sorry, I'm straying away. Anyways, there's 100 and more prayers and meditations within this book. Many of the prayers within this book have a certain task. It is impossible, I'm sure it's possible, but it's almost impossible for any person to learn 100 prayers by heart, okay? So when you see that you go to a sesión or a velada or a misa espiritual, you will often see the presidente de mesa or another medium pick up this little famous book, depending on what it is for. If it's a sesión, that's a seance. If it's a velada, that's to work lower level spirits to help them, educate them. If it's a misa, it's something totally different. But there are prayers in here for everything, from a spirit who is a suicidal, from someone who has passed away, from an illness, praying to faith, hope, and charity. There's prayers here for a spiritual gathering, a seance. We use this. Now, a lot of people ask me, well, first of all, we use this book so that everyone, most of the times when you go to a misa or a sesión, and I know I'm all over the place and I'm sorry, most of the people, when they come to a sesión or a velada, they bring their librito, and as the medium is reciting the prayers, everyone is, as we say in Spanish, en unión de pensamiento, in union of thought, so that you're not thinking about a pizza or your date or I gotta get home or some blah blah blah. You want everyone to be in the same level, energy as everybody else. So you want everyone's thought on the meditation of the words that are being said. And again, there's prayers for suicides. There's prayers for lower level entity, elevating vibrations. There's prayers to faith, hope, and charity. There's prayers to a spiritual gathering. Okay, so when we're working a session, we got to make sure we know what prayer to get, okay? An espiritista knows where to get the prayer real quick, where to find it. If it's for a spirit who's a suicide, it's a spirit of a person who is a lower level entity and needs some light, then we go to this book, okay? But every espiritista who works la mesa espiritual often knows el rosario, the litany to the santos, la litanía de los santos, los rosarios, los misterios, what day to use los misterios, and we know this by heart. So whenever you see me open una oración or the libro in a misa, en la sesión, it's because there's a mission that we're doing this seance or this velada or this misa. So we begin with a certain prayer and then we jump around, and let's say if it's for a suicidal spirit, we go into the prayer of suicidal spirit. If it's for a spirit of a child who is sick and we want to heal, we go to that. So there's prayers on healing, there's prayers on everything that has to do with the material and how to guide us. A lot of people ask me, do I use this when I'm by myself? Actually, no, I don't. The only time I use this book right here, the only time I use this book is if I'm in a misa or if I'm in a sesión espiritual. Again, remember when I started this part of the prayer section, I said that in Spanish we have orando y rezando. Rezando means to recite a prayer. Orar is to speak to the spirit from the heart, from the soul. Orar is to, I don't know the English name for orar. Adoration, I think, is to speak to the spirit like I'm talking to you. I talk to my spirits. I'm not talking to you reading a book, blah, 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 blah. No, I'm not doing that. I'm talking to you from my mouth, and that's the way I talk to my spirits. I don't sit in front of la mesa and ever read this unless I'm doing a sesión, a velada, and a misa. When I talk to my spirits, I talk to my spirits like I'm talking to you, like I'm talking to my neighbor, I talk to them either outspokenly, through my mind. I always start with a prayer, un Padre Nuestro que estás en el cielo santificado, un Dios te salve María, un credo. Every Spiritista is different. You know, I'm a Spiritista that I follow the doctrines of Allen Kardec, which I want to go a little bit deeper into that. But like I said, there's 100 prayers in that book, and this person confused what is rezando, to recite a prayer from a book, which all Spiritistas do, from Cuba to Puerto Rico to Venezuela to Mexico to España to Brazil. We all usamos the codifications of Allen Kardec, the Gospels of Allen Kardec, the prayers, and depending on what the mission is for, we find the prayers for that. And we know when it comes to a santo, or to, let's say someone has passed away, we know by heart, el credo, el Padre Nuestro, el Dios te salve María, por la señal de la Santa Cruz de nuestros enemigos, libéranos Señor Dios nuestro, en el nombre del Padre, el Hijo y Espíritu Santo. We know it by heart. So he confused that. So I wanted to just tap into that just a little bit. But when it comes to talking to my spirits, it's very rare that I open this book. You know, I only open this book when there's a gathering and I'm doing a sesión. And I open this book when I want to teach, you know, I want to have a conversation with a godson. This is one of 5 of the books of Allen Kardec, and then there's thousands and thousands of other great books by other Espiritistas in Spanish and Portuguese. And that's why I wanted to do this video, because it's rare for anyone to find anything in English, and this is such a beautiful start if you want to read anything in English. But again, there's a difference between orando y rezando. Rezando is to recite a prayer. Orando is to speak to your spirits from your heart, like I'm speaking to you. And that's one thing that I just wanted to cover. I'm sorry I'm all over the place. I think I had a little bit too much coffee. Now I want to talk about a little bit about the difference between Spiritism, Espiritismo, and Spiritualism. But before I do that, I want to tackle a little bit about who Allen Kardec is. Just a really quick thing, so you can understand who Allen Kardec is. Allen Kardec, that was his pen name. His name was Hipólito, oh my God, I forgot, Hipólito León Rival. I know him by Allen Kardec, his pen name. He was a French professor, or intelligent mind, who lived in France. I think he was born in 1804. He studied the world of Spiritism by studying other mediums. So the best way I can explain Allen Kardec so you can understand is, imagine me as I'm the writer and I'm portraying my messages. Allen Kardec would be like the editor. He edited the message that I'm giving so that the rest of the world could see it. Nothing that Allen Kardec wrote in the 5 codifications of Espiritismo was created by him. Everything that is in Espiritismo has existed in every culture, in every part of the world, since the beginning of time, from ancient Greece, Rome, Egypt, Africa, the indigenous people of the Americas, Asia. Nothing that he talks about in here doesn't exist. Actually, a lot of what he speaks in here is also, you will find similarities with Socrates and Platos from ancient Greece. You will find a lot of the similar philosophies. And I think Socrates was 2,000 of years before the man that we know as a legendary figure as the Jesus, the Messiah, Yeshua, Rabbi Yeshua. But you have to view Allen Kardec or Hipólito León Rival as the editor. He edited the messages brought to him by spirit, by mediums who brought down spirit. Espiritismo has 5 principles. We teach the existence of God, the creator, the cause of all causes. That's the first principle. The second principle is the immortality of the soul. The third one is, and I'm going to forget, the plurality of existence, or like reincarnation. The fourth is the plurality, I can't say that, la pluralidad of existence within other planets and other planes of existence. And the fifth principle within Espiritismo or Spiritism is the communication or the interaction that us incarnated soul and incarnated spirits we have with the world or the realm of the spirit. So those are the 5 principles, and then it just goes deeper from there. But I just wanted to show you and I'll give you a mental view that Allen Kardec would be like the editor. Okay, he didn't bring nothing new to the table. He edited what other mediums were saying, and he wrote them down. And there's where we get the 5 books of Allen Kardec. And from Allen Kardec, from Espiritismo, Spiritism, you find many branches of Espiritismo all over the world. Some have intermingled with traditions of indigenous spirituality. Some have intermingled with African spirituality. That's where you get your Umbanda. That's where you get your Sanse. That's where you get your Santerismo. That's where you get your Maria Leonza, your Fidencista, your Trincanteros. There's so many branches of Espiritismo. Then you have Espiritismo Cruzado, which is a mix of the Spiritism philosophies with African philosophies from Yoruba, the Yoruba people. Then you have Espiritismo Cordón in Cuba, which is the philosophies of Espiritismo with the spirituality, the spiritual beliefs of the indigenous Taino people or the Arawak people of Cuba and the Caribbean. Okay, so now I just wanted to tackle that before I go into the differences between Spiritism and Spiritualism, because a lot of people confuse what is Spiritism and what is Spiritualism. Okay, to end this video, I'm going to end it with the differences between Espiritismo, Spiritism, and Spiritualism, which is in Spanish Espiritualismo. A lot of people do confuse Spiritism with Espiritualismo. And Spiritualismo, the word spirituality has its roots or they both have, similar roots. Spirituality and spiritualism, Espiritualismo. And I'm going to keep religion, I'm going to try to keep religion as much to the side of this, but Espiritismo, before there was Espiritismo or Spiritism, there was Spiritualism. Spiritualism has existed since the beginning of the dawning of time. And before the word Spiritualism or other words that are similar to the word Spiritism existed, there was Shamanism. Shamanism is the ancient, our ancestrals, the way our ancestors, our prehistoric ancestors, believed in life after death and our communication or our interaction with the world of the dead, the world of what they would view as deities or gods or angels or divas or demons or whatever. Deep conversation, deep topic, but Spiritism was conned by Allen Kardec. And there is a difference between Spiritism and Spiritualism, and I'm going to try to keep religion as much as possible out of it, because in Espiritismo, one thing I enjoy about Espiritismo is that I've interacted with many Spiritistas, and one thing about Spiritistas is we hunger for knowledge, we hunger for wisdom, and we search for that wisdom. Excuse me, we search for that wisdom within the religions and the philosophies of the world around us. So you will see many Spiritistas who will study the Christian doctrines, the Jewish doctrines, the Muslim doctrines, the Hindu doctrines, the doctrines of Buddhism, of ancient China, ancient Japan. We will study the philosophies, the religions. So a lot of Spiritistas try to find the similarity between all these different world religions, and religions was created by man. Okay, because in the Bible, if you ever read the Bible, the word religion is not once mentioned. Not once is the word religion mentioned in the Bible. But anyways, Spiritistas, we study the philosophies and the beliefs of all religions. You know, we try to attain wisdom by their philosophies and their teachings and their learnings. So Espiritismo was coined by Allen Kardec, okay? And before, Allen Kardec did not create spiritualism. Spiritualism has existed in all parts of the world. It is the belief in the interaction of what is spiritual, everything that is spiritual. Some people who are spiritual or spiritualists do interact with spirits, some do not. Some view themselves as mediums or channelers, some do not. Espiritistas, anyone who practices espiritistas, we believe that we have an interaction with the world of the spirit, other planes of existence. We believe in the soul, and we believe in the philosophies of one man. Some people have made this man into a god. Some people argue if this man was a myth, if this man was a legend, if this man was real, if this man was God, if this man is an ascended master. I'm not going to sit here and argue anyone's personal beliefs on this man. But much of the Gospels of Spiritism, Espiritismo, is the teachings of one man, and his name is Rabbi Yeshua, and a lot of people know this man as Jesus, Jesus. And the only thing that we teach on, well, not the only, because it's one of the biggest foundation of Espiritismo, is the teachings of his morality, you know, his moral teachings, his teachings, just pretty much how to live a moral life, forgiveness. And if you notice, a lot of the things that the Rabbi Yeshua did, whether it's mythology, whether it's true, some people view him as the Son of God, and some people, like myself, view him as an ascended master in the ranks, just like Gandhi, just like the Buddha, just like Merlin. I view Jesus as an ascended master, and I live my life by his teachings, forgiveness, compassion, understanding. Much of what Jesus did, if you read the Bible, which a lot of it is you got to understand it's been corrupted, you know, because I don't think his life was not recorded after 200 years after his death. So you can imagine that a lot of it's based on mythology. Of course, we understand that. But if you read the Bible, you will see that a lot of the things that Jesus teaches, or the man Jesus, whether you believe him to be a real man or an incarnation of Krishna, or whatever you may believe, we just believe in the philosophies that he taught, the morality, the forgiveness. A lot of the things that he did, He did automatic writing. There's a part in the Bible when they're going to stone the prostitute. He sat on the ground and he started doing symbols on the ground. So he was doing automatic writing. He was getting messages from the Spirit. A lot of people also say that as a espiritista, why do I dress in black? Actually, a lot of my videos I dress in white when I'm talking about espiritismo, and when I'm talking about brujeria, I dress in black. It's funny because a lot of people they don't understand. How can you be a espiritista and a brujo at the same time? I'm both. Una mano, one hand is this, one hand is my left, and one hand is my right, but they are both part of this body. Okay, so I wear black, but I do, when I'm doing a sesión or a misa or velada, I do dress in white. The white color, many of the French spiritists and the early spiritists of the Caribbean, they really didn't dress in white. Much of the influence of the white was brought into various branches of spiritism by traditions from Africa, such as the Lukumi, or maybe the people of Dahomey, Benin, Yoruba, whatever. So a lot of spiritists took on that wearing of white, and some espiritistas, they took on the wearing of white because of a single story in the Bible, which is the transfiguration of Christ, or the transfiguration of Jesus. Excuse me. When he was on the mountain, and I think it was Peter, and I don't remember who else saw this, but when Jesus was on the mountain, he was in brown clothing, and all of a sudden a radiant light transfigured him, and his clothing turned white. And before Jesus, before the rabbi Jesus, came his ancestors, Moses and Elijah. He was communicating with his ancestors. And that is in the Bible in Matthew's 17, chapter 2. I could be wrong by that. But some Espiritistas wear white because of that. One thing that's interesting to me is that I noticed that a lot of people are quick to believe that a palero can be an espiritista, that a santero can be an espiritista, but they don't grasp the idea how can a brujo be an espiritista. In Puerto Rico, most of the brujos I know are espiritistas. You know what I'm saying? Most of the brujos that I know in Puerto Rico, and a lot of Cuban espiritistas, and a lot of espiritistas in Venezuela, not all, but a lot of those brujos are espiritistas. We view the left hand and the right hand, and they do have two different functions, but they are part of the human I am. So when I work espiritismo, I dress in white, and when I talk about my brujeria, which I don't view it as a religion, I view it as a family tradition. I wear my black, and there's certain reasons, and I think I've talked about that in a video before, and I'm straying away from the difference between espiritismo, spiritism, and spiritualism. So quickly, the difference between spiritism, espiritismo, and spiritualism, espiritualismo, is that espiritismo, we believe in Christ consciousness, la conciencia de Cristo, Christ consciousness, while spiritualism doesn't necessarily have to have the Christ consciousness, but they do interact with the world of spirit. They do believe in life after death, and they do believe in higher levels of spirits, while spiritistas, we believe in the Christ consciousness. And depending on the part of the world you are, you can have the Buddhist consciousness, the Krishna consciousness, but Espiritismo, we believe in the Christ consciousness, the moralities and teachings of brotherly love, of faith, of hope, of charity, of helping, of being a missionary, of helping others when in need. So we believe in the Christ consciousness, but we also believe in the life of the everlasting existence of the soul, of the spirit, and that it will live on or exist after the physical death of the body. So spiritualism exists all over the world, is in the interaction of that certain group of people with the world of spirit, whether they view the spirits as deities, they view the spirits as ancestors, they view the spirits as ghosts. Each part of the world, they view the spirits as jinn, elementals, elementals, whatever. It's just the interaction or the belief that there is something after death, the existence of the soul. Espiritismo is all that as is spiritualism, but much of the teachings is, like I said, in the morality of a certain man from the Bible, which a lot of people argue and say he was a myth, he was influenced by this, by that. We don't care about that. The only thing that we care about is the morality of what he taught, whether it's true or fake or whatever, the morality of what that man, Rabbi Yeshua, Jesus taught. And so espiritistas, spiritism, espiritismo, you cannot be an espiritista if you don't believe in that. You can be a spiritualist. Spiritualist is you can have a belief in the interaction of the world of spirit. Doesn't mean that you follow the guidelines of a moral life. Many people who are spiritual are actually corrupt people, and I'm not throwing shit at anybody, but many, we call those charlatanes, charlatans, and there's out of every 10 people professing to be spiritual, nine of those people are charlatanes, charlatans. They're thieves. They prey on the weak. And again, it's all for earthly pleasure, earthly titles, earthly material gain. While an espiritista, we tend to not worry so much about the material pleasures and all that. Well, yeah, I mean, that's good, but we realize the elevation of the soul, and we study all forms of religion, spiritualities, philosophies, science. And I'm hoping I made the sense of what's the difference between spirituality, spiritualism and spiritism. Let me give you an example. Before the white man hit the Caribbean, or before, well, let's go to the Caribbean. Before, and think about this as all parts of the world. Before the white man hit the Caribbean, or Latin America, South America, the indigenous, the Taino, the Aztec, the Mayan, they had an intricate spiritual belief, okay, which was not spiritism, because they didn't know who Jesus was or his teachings, but they had this view of the world of spirit and their interaction with the views of the spirit. And that's what spirituality or spiritualism is, which is different from spiritism, which is the teachings of a man by the name of Rabbi Yeshua, Jesucristo. So if you say you're an espiritista, you should be reading this book and understanding that you have to live by a moral code of a misionero, to aid people, to be compassionate, to give la obra of faith, hope, and charity, to understand, not to be so judgmental, to stand up for what is right, you know what I'm saying, to choose your battles wisely. Don't go into war at every moment of the day. I know this is a long video. Let me end this short, because hopefully I answered everything. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, if you still have more questions, I know this is such a deep topic. I'm surprised I even took it on. It's taken the whole day to look and just make sure that I'm there with the topic at hand. I'm sure I've bored half of you guys, so I'm going to end this quickly. I'm going to end this now. So much respect, much love, much honor. Thank you to all my new subscribers, all my new followers. This is Sancista Brujo Luis.